Okay. Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for inviting me to do a presentation. I was asked to do a presentation here at the club on Parks on the Air. My name is Jimmy Landrum. My call sign is November 6, Foxtrot Mike Delta. I got a lot to cover, so I just want to dive into this and get moving pretty quickly. I'd ask that you hold all your comments and questions until we get to the end of the presentation. Again, there's just a lot to cover. When I ran through this, it's a little bit around 45 minutes. And that's without stopping. So we're going to get through this quickly, cover a lot of information, and then again at the end, if there's questions or whatever, we'll go ahead and cover them then. All right. So first, I just kind of want to set up why I do POTA. Okay. So I live in a crowded suburb just outside of Sacramento. The hospital is blocks away, and I have these power lines that cut across the sky behind my yard. At home, the nose floor stubbornly sits at S5 on the best of days. The air is always buzzing, if not static, and then there's the hum of the traffic and the weight of all the restlessness of the city. To escape it all, I kind of found Parks in the Air. At first, it was just a way to operate in peace, kind of away from the interference and the chaos of the suburbs. But as I set up more activations, I began to realize POTA was becoming more than a radio type event. It was kind of a pilgrimage, if you will, and a journey or an experience. It was a chance to set up in nature, to carry a radio and station into places where the air is quiet, the atmosphere is quiet, and you just kind of let me remind the world of its beauty. It's getting outside of the city, right? So there's something deeply healing. There's something deeply healing about it. Playing radio by a river, a lake, or at the edge of the ocean, the salt water, the waves, the air, the salt. The wires and the antennas, they just vanish into the trees, and the airwaves themselves just begin to feel alive. It's just a lot of fun, right? So, of course, I love the chase, the pileups, the rhythm of logging, the excitement of reaching across the continents in the span of a few seconds. But what lingers isn't always adrenaline. It's the small fleeting exchanges, like the call sign answered, a voice carried over the ether, two strangers connected for just a breath in time. And then sometimes, for me, the best part begins after that last call fades. When the microphone is set down and the radio grows quiet and that rush slowly drains away and it leaves me in this stillness. That's kind of like when the real music begins, the rustling of the leaves stirred by the wind, the trickling of the river, the steady heartbeat of the waves against the shore. It's a symphony that's always been there, but sometimes I wonder if without the radio to draw me out, if I might not have ever really been there to hear it. So why I POTA? Let's talk about a disease, RSNDS. Something a lot of us ham radio operators experience. It's called radio signal noise degeneration or derangement syndrome. Long exposure can be fatal to your radio hobby health, causes fatigue, depression, and feelings of isolation. Often sufferers will give up and leave the hobby forever or for years. And it can feel like a horror film. I hear no people talking. Have no fear, POTA is here. POTA was my solution, and I escape from the dungeon of the shack and get into nature. I get to meet new people and develop strong friendships. I get to explore and experience new places and see new faces, and it brings the fun back into the radio hobby. So when I first started out, I would land on somebody's page like this, only my page was blank. I started activating, like I'll get into this a little bit in the next slide, but I started activating in March of last year, but my real activation or official, what I call my official activation, where it was my equipment, was in on New Year's Eve. So anyway, this is kind of like what the profile would look like inside of POTA. This is the awards that I've earned so far, and we'll get into the statistics. And so, like, I guess what we're coming down to is, why would you listen to me? Like, who is this guy? Why is he presenting POTA? I am not an expert radio HF guy at all. I'm not an engineer. I own an IT firm, managed IT company, and I am a network engineer. I am not an electronics guy. Everything that I'm learning is from studying for the tests and then going out in real world experience. That's really hands-on. That's how I learn. So let's get into my bio a little bit and why I'm up here talking to you and why would you even listen to me? Well, let's just get into it a little bit. I made my first Parks in the Air activation on New Year's Eve 2024 running a Yaesu 991A with a simple 10-meter dipole. From that moment, I was hooked. Field operations quickly became my passion. By March of 2025, I began treating every outing as both an activation and an experiment. I logged each antenna's performance under different conditions, configuration, radial orientation, placement, cue, resonance, SWR, and I began building a personal database of what was really working for me in the field. I started doing back-to-back Zulu split activations to compare antennas under nearly identical band conditions, and sometimes I even used antenna switches during live operations to test signal strength and reception with willing contacts who stuck around to help. Over time, patterns emerged, confirmed by QSO propagation maps showing exactly which setups perform best. Fast forward to today, well, yesterday, October 20th, 2025, I've completed 188 activations across 52 unique parks in 6 states, totaling 6,809 QSOs. I've hunted 1,367 unique parks, logged 1,872 park-to-park contacts, and earned 39 awards, some twice over. And recently I earned the coveted 50 Hunted States Award, plus I got Washington, D.C., which is considered a wild card. So it's like getting 51 states. Pretty excited about that. That just happened. I got my last two, Maine and Washington, D.C., this last weekend for the, Support Your Parks event. Again, my passion is compact, rapid deployment radio field operations. And again, it's at their best. It's just so much fun. Parks on the Air has been the ultimate testing ground, and let's be honest, it's a ton of fun. So what is Parks on the Air? Parks on the Air, or POTA, started in early 2017 when the ARRL's National Parks on the Air special event ended. A group of volunteers wanted to continue the fun beyond the one-year event, and thus POTA was born. POTA is a program that allows amateur radio operators to have fun playing radio at designated POTA parks while also enhancing their real-life experience at field radio operations. There are two types of operators. There's an activator, a licensed amateur radio operator who operates their radio from an official designated POTA park. And then there's a hunter, a licensed amateur radio operator who operates their radio from any location and hunts for activators. Okay, how do you get started? You go to the parksontheair.com website, you create an account. That gets you access to the POTA app, and then inside of there, I suggest that you read the rules and documents. And by the time there's a plethora of information that's well written. By the time you get done with that, you will be what I call paper certed. You will understand and know all there is to know about POTA. And then once you're ready, go ahead and hunt or activate parks. All right, basic equipment needed. Hunters, you just need a working radio and an antenna at any location. You don't even have to log. Activators will log for you, and when they're the only ones who can actually log for a hunter. And then when they upload their logs, you get credit for the hunt. Activators, you need an HF, VHF, UHF radio, portable antenna, portable power, battery generator, etc. Logging tool, an app, notebook, or laptop. Okay, now we're going to get into the fun part of the presentation. For me, at least, we're going to talk about how I hunt POTA, how I set up, and how I operate. All right, I use Ham2K portable logger. I don't have a lot of time to get into all the other loggers I've used, but I will say I've used quite a few of them. This one is specifically made and designed for POTA, and it is freaking awesome and so easy to use. It just makes things really quick for POTA in particular. So when I go to hunt, I'll just give you a little bit of background of what I do and why I do it. Let's run through this list real quick, and then we'll get into that. Okay, Ham2K portable logger. I go in, I set up my antenna and everything. I'm all ready to go. I sit down, I open portable logger. I set up a new operation. I filter spots by bands, mode, and frequency and time. I tune to the spotted parks, and if you can hear them, typically you can work them. And then I log successful contacts. Okay, so why I hunt first. And we'll get into how to set it up and get through that stuff a little bit. There's a couple of reasons. The primary one is I get a feel for what the band conditions are like, who I can hear and who can hear me. So when I start hunting, I go to a park, I sit. Typically there's a pile up, so you're listening. You can hear the people that are coming in from other states, and as they make their contact and successfully complete their contact or whatever, do their exchange, I get to know what state they're in, and obviously my radio, it's my ears, I can hear how well or how weak the signal is from which states. It gives me an idea what the band conditions are coming into me, what that incoming signal is like. Then when I make the contacts to the parks, I get to find out what my signal outgoing is like, how strong, how weak is my signal being propagated from this particular park that I'm at. So it gives me an idea of the band conditions, and then I kind of get a feel for how hard or how easy this activation is going to be. The other reason I hunt is there's a million of us out there doing Parks on the Air, especially now. Since March to now, I can tell you there is way more people on the bands and frequencies. And there's only so much bandwidth or frequency available for each band, right? And there's so many of us. A lot of times, I don't even have to ever officially park on a frequency. I just hunt and I get 15 to 20 contacts and I'm done. And I never ever had to park and call CQ once. I just made contacts through hunts. I do that because I don't want to use up bandwidth. And let me just say this, there's a lot of contesting and stuff going on. We can activate a park every single day. So when the contest comes up, I try to be courteous, and if I'm going to do an activation, I try not to park on a frequency unless there's not a lot of traffic. I will go ahead and participate in the contest and make the contacts, and each one of those contacts counts as toward your park. And it helps them with their contesting, and it helps you get activated, and you're leaving all of the bandwidth or all the frequencies available for the contesters, because it is precious. You hear them park right on top of each other. To me, I don't want to encroach on those contests, and I get it. There's like a contest every weekend. Some contests are bigger and more. There's just a lot more crowded bands than others. So I'm just thinking out of courtesy. The other thing I try not to do is if and I don't know where all the nets are, and I'm not going to pretend to, and I'm not going to invest the time to go look up what nets are and what frequencies at what times. If I'm sitting on a frequency and I'm calling CQ and I'm calling parks on the air, and somebody comes up and says, "Hey, we have a net that's always on here at this time or whatever. Do you mind moving frequencies?" I have no problem doing that at all. I get that the rules say, "Hey, I was here first," but let's not do that. Let's be courteous to each other. And I know sometimes they park on top of you and talk over you because they're being sad hams. But again, there's a million of us out there. We're taking up all the bandwidth. I can also understand their frustration. So for me, I just try to be courteous. I try to be a courteous operator, and I still want to activate, and I still going to stand firm. I have just as much right as everybody else according to the rules, but I don't want to be rude or be the sad ham that says, no, screw you. Let's be courteous about it, and please don't use service radio frequencies such as parking on 14.300, the maritime net. I get that it's not what it used to be, but it's still important, and it's something that we need to be mindful of and respectful of. Okay, so how do I set up? All right, so once you get Polo installed, and you can get it from the App Store or the Play Store, it's on both Google and or whatever. It's on Chrome or whatever they call it, Android. It's on Android and Apple, and the interface is the same on both apps. Colors might be a little different, but everything works the same. So you open it up, you get it all set up, you tie it into your QRZ account, and that helps automatically populate out the information when you're doing a QSO log of the people that you're contacting. It uses that your QRZ lookups, and then it uses your GPS for location. So let's go ahead and, so you want GPS on, you want to go ahead and set up your QRZ connection as well, so you get that. It makes the logging so much faster. So the first thing I do is I input my station ID or station information. Your station call sign is the call sign that you're using at the station. If there's two operators, it's real simple. You just you put a comma in there, put the second call sign. The cool thing about this app is it will actually export 2 different logs for each call sign. You don't have to split it or duplicate it or do anything at the end. It automatically does it for you when you're done logging or when you're done with your activation. The other cool thing is if you have a special event station, let's say I'm using NorCal Skywarn, we're doing some special event, we're also doing a POTA. N6CSW would be the station call sign, and I would put my call sign below that. I will get credit for all the contacts that are made through being an operator or operated call sign. Now I do suggest if you're doing an event that you go ahead and give out both call signs. So I would do N6CSW, and then I would say, and I also have another call for you, November 6 Foxtrot Mike Delta. I do that for 2 reasons. One is you'll get both. You'll get the N6CSW and your call sign for the park activation. But the other thing is that operator that just contacted you, out of the 10 that he's got to get, he just got 2 off of 1 contact. So that's just the way I operate. And then you go in and you go ahead and set up your location, your grid square, right? And so the cool thing is it'll find your grid square right off of your GPS. You click on it and it automatically populates up here. The other cool thing is when you set this up initially, you'll tell it what activities you want to do. For me, I just put field day, soda, and POTA. I click on the soda here, add activity, click on soda, or click on activity, and then it'll ask you, and you say POTA. And then I come in here and it lists all the parks within a certain mile range of me. For instance, in this example, I can't remember what park I used, but anyway, you click on the park, it automatically puts it up here where it says parks selected for activation. If you're doing 2 FERs or 3 FERs, you just click those parks that you want, put it up here. If, for instance, the park isn't listed, you can type in the park number here, it'll list it, then you can add it. So like if you're activating a threefer and you're out there on the property for Prairie City, and you're also going to do the Pony Express and the Pioneer Trail, or no, the California National Historic Trail, they don't come up listed. I mean, that trail covers multiple states, so that kind of stuff isn't listed. But you can type in the U.S. whatever the number is, it'll list the park, and then you add it, and then you type in the next one, and it lists the park, and you add it, and then you have all three parks already there, so that when you export your ADI or ADIF file, it's all there, and then you upload it to POTA and all your other logging apps, and all that pertinent information is there. But it's automatically in your log file. You don't have to do it every time. You don't. It's like this is a one-time setup. This is how I set up all of my activations, and then I'm going to go ahead and hunt. So I've got my operation set up, and now I go ahead and I type in the frequency, and what this does is it gets your spotting lined up for you. So I just pick one. I'm not parked anywhere. I'm not actually going to use this frequency. I'm just using this frequency as a reference point for the spotting inside the Polo app. So for this instance, I'm on 20 meters, so I just typed in 14.254. And this means nothing right now. I'm just using this to get my spotting. So I've done this. I click on spots. The Polo app's going to go out. It's going to collect all of the active known from the POTA app. Polo is going to pull down all of the spotted parks. And this is really cool. This is how I do it. It's in order for the frequency. So I can go, okay, I'm going to start here at 14.254, see if I can hear these guys. Then I'm going to come down here to 263 if I can hear these guys. And then you're not turning the dial back and forth, back and forth. You're just going in a Boolean method right down the line of the frequencies in order to see who you cannot hear, who you can contact. For instance, in this example, I'm saying, oh man, I just fired up, I just sat down, and I got three operators. I gotta get 10 contacts. So just off of one park, I'm gonna get 3 contacts. That's 3 towards my 10. I only got 7 more to get. So I always get excited when I see multiple operators. Hunters probably not so much, but when you're park to park, it's really exciting to get multiple operators because you're getting those numbers. You're getting that count towards your final 10. So in this instance, you find them. I'm listening. I can hear them. I think I can make contact. Again, if you can hear them, you can typically work them. I just click on them, and then it automatically, you can't see all 3, but all 3 of those call signs are down here, automatically put into my QSO log, or my contact, where I'm going to record my contact. It has the band. It automatically filled out what frequency they were on, because no matter what I type in here when I first initially start, if I clicked on 14.263 guy, it would automatically put his frequency here. It automatically populates his park number. I don't even have to click on this. It's all there. All of that information is everything I need as far as the contact information is there, minus the signal reports. So at this point, all I really have to do is talk to each one of these guys. Your signal report's going to be the same for all 3. And I put in the initial signal report I get from the first guy, and then I talk to all 3 of the guys, because you need to officially make contact for it to be a true contact. You need to talk to all 3 of these guys. They need to talk to you. You all need to exchange your signal reports. And when you're done, I click the save button, and boom, it automatically split all 3 of these guys out for me. And I did all that from one QSO entry. It's awesome. It's great, and it's fun. It's just an awesome app. So anyway, I got all 3 of those logged. Okay, now I'm scanning the bands, and as I'm going down my list here, as I'm going down in my order, say maybe at 14.265, oh, wait, I hear somebody. And so we'll call it 14.317. So at 14.317, I hear this guy. His call sign is November 6 DXN. I can hear him 5.9. I go ahead and put that in there first before I even call out, because I know what his signal is coming into me. And then I hear him calling out CQ POTA, and I hear him call out making a contact with someone else, and he's got 2 park numbers. Again, listen, right? That's what they always say. Listen. Before you make contact with someone, gather as much information as you can. Just because I won't lie, I do sometimes, as soon as I'm scanning the bands and I hear somebody say CQ POTA and I have no idea who they are, I go ahead and call out, and then I get that information. But if I hear a lot of people there, I'll go ahead and just wait, and I'll get their park numbers filled in. I'll get their call sign filled in. Again, this is people who haven't spotted, but they're doing a park-to-park activation, or they're a special event station or whatever. I'll get all the information I need before I call CQ. And then now I'm ready. And so I go ahead and call CQ. I give him his 5.9 report. He gives me a 5.9 the report back. And then you go ahead and click log, and then it would add them to this to your QSO log or to your log file. All right, so how I activate. Again, I hunt first. I arrive at the park. I pick my spot. I set up my radio antenna and gear. I set up a new operation in Polo. I tune, listen, and then I log contacts. I activate second. I go ahead and tune. I listen. I find an open frequency. I find out if the frequency is in use. Then I set that frequency in Polo and I self-spot. I begin calling CQ. All right, so let's get into self-spotting. So here I've decided I'm going to operate on 10 meters. I found that 28.337 is open. So I click on this self-spotting. It comes up. You can type whatever you want here, but typically the defaults are fine. When you're done with an activation as well, go ahead and click self-spotting again. Type QRT in caps here and click self-spot, and then make sure you're removed. So right now we've set up a new activation. We know the frequency's open. We click self-spotting. We say self-spot. Give it a few seconds. We click on spots, and then we make sure that we're spotted. Now you'll be a different color, and if you make a contact, it'll actually put a line through them. So it's really cool. It's really easy to tell who you've contacted and who you haven't when you're doing hunts. Because sometimes I go up and down that list, because as I go through all the way through the Boolean, whatever the numbers and sequence, and then you go all the way back to the top again, and I notice more parks have been posted. So I start going through that list again, and I keep going through that list over and over. I can tell you a lot of times when I go to a park, I never have to set on a frequency. Like I said, I'll get 20 to 25 contacts just all park to parks. Cool thing about that too is you're getting your park to park numbers up, and you're activating the park as well. I've had activations where I've had 30, and they were all park to parks, and it's a lot of fun. It's really cool. It's fun to it's a lot of, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it's more fun to park on a frequency and have everybody come to you. It certainly is, but again, this is just how I operate. Almost every activation nowadays is first hunt. Okay, so anyway, I'm there, I see him there, so then I'd be calling CQ. Okay, N6DXN makes contact with me. I go ahead and put in a signal report, put in this, it's already populated as information, and I click log. If he's at a park or there's two operators, the cool thing about this app is I just put a comma, I put in that second call sign, I put in the first part, a comma, the second part, and I log. And then it's gonna split those two out, and it's gonna put both parks over here. All right, POTA operation considerations. How long do you plan to operate? Which park or parks will you operate in? How will you get there, and how long will it take to get there? How long do you plan to operate at each park? How many contacts do you plan to get at each park? How long do you think it will take to get those contacts? Okay, so that whole part, when we're talking about how long will it take to get there, so this is planning a multi-park or just a single park operation. Okay, the park's an hour and a half from the house, you know, you got a plan for that, right? You don't want to forget anything. What are you going to need? And we'll get into some more of that as we go through the rest of this list. How long do you plan to operate at each park? Now that question is based on how many contacts you want to make. I can tell you that most likely, if you park yourself, if you're not hunting, if you park yourself, you are almost guaranteed to activate a park, depending on the band conditions, within an hour. That's been my experience. All of that stuff that you saw in all those statistics, my experience has been I can typically activate a park within an hour. Sometimes it's 40 contacts, sometimes it's only 12. Now, I never just get 10 and leave, rarely. I mean, I've done it in a desperate situation, but rarely do I leave. I usually get 12 to 16, 15 contacts just to be safe. All right, and then how many watts am I going to transmit at? What modes do I want to operate on? And that's going to help me determine what size battery I'll need and really how long it's going to last. And then if it's a camping trip or, it's going to be an all-day operation or whatever, I need to figure out how long my battery is going to last and what size batteries I'm going to need. And again, if it's a multi-day operation or, whatever, am I going to need to recharge those batteries? And if so, how am I going to do that? And of course, you need to figure out what the weather's going to be like during the operations. And that's going to help determine what additional gear and provisions you're going to need going through that whole list. For me, I always want to know where the restrooms are, closest restrooms, whether it's at the park or whether I need to leave the park. Is there any food nearby, etc.? Again, this would be like long trips. If you're just running down to Nimbus Dam or Beals Point and you live here in the Sacramento metro area, that's not that big of a deal. But when we talk about what we get into a little bit further, like reconning and logistics of long trips, these questions are going to be more pertinent to what you're doing. All right, so POTA for air travel. I prefer this. So I like a compact radio. I want all my gear to fit in a carry-on item, preferably a backpack. Battery size does matter. Okay, this is in Georgia. or no, I'm sorry, this is in San Antonio, Texas. I was there for a conference. And it was Winterfield Day. I absolutely wanted to operate, so I took my JPC 12. So all that gear you see in that photo fits in a backpack along with a laptop, and I can fit it all under the seat in front of me, so I can have this in a backpack, all this gear, all my radio gear in a backpack, including the charger, and I can fit it under the seat and still have a carry-on. I have heard stories of operators having the spikes taken and chameleon telescopic antennas confiscated because they say they could be a weapon. I had no problems. I actually didn't have any problems with that 20 amp hour battery. I went to went through 4 different airports, different trip. I mean, same trip. This was all the same trip. But I went to the conference. I went to some other stuff, and then I ended up stopping at my parents' house before I came home and spent a couple of 4 days or 5 days with them. Until I went to come home, one flight back to Sacramento from Wichita, I got the battery confiscated, and fortunately it was there, so my mom could come and pick it up, and she mailed it back to me. My mistake was I was thinking 100 amp hours. I didn't read it as watt hours, and the 20 amp hour battery is way over that. So now I travel with 2 12 amp hour batteries, because you're allowed to have 2 100 watt amp hour batteries or watt hour batteries with you. But I haven't gotten harassed using the 12 watts, even though they're like 120 or whatever. They're over the 100 watt hour, but I've not gotten harassed about that. So I think technically 7 and 9 amp hour batteries are perfect for that. But when you get into the 10 and 12, you're kind of a little bit over the limit. But again, I haven't gotten harassed about that. Okay, so my POTA operations in local parks. Okay, originally I would always have these in a not a go box, but in a Pelican case, and then I would pull everything out, set everything up, and tear everything down, put it all back in. I just freaking got tired of that. So I built go boxes. So I have a go box for 891. I got a really nice one, soft case for my FT710, and then I've got my 891 in a permanent box. I don't know how I feel about that. I'm not traveling as much right now, so it doesn't really bother me. But when I do go to travel, I got to take that front case, slide the whole thing out, and then unscrew everything. But I love this box. I do. I like. Anyway, the go boxes are just quick setup. Set the antenna up, tune it, and then I throw my box up. I flip the power switch on. I connect the coax, and I'm ready to roll. So that's why I like them. I prefer the be able to quick release. You can see here. This was my original 891 setup. The one below it, where you can see the antenna tuner. I really like this setup because I could pull everything out really quickly, and I didn't have to undo any screws. But it was. I don't know. It was a little. It just wasn't. It was a little bulky, and the angles felt funky, and so I went ahead and built that other box, the top right second one there. So anyway, that's local. Again, if you're going to operate from your car, mag mount an antenna. Okay, POTA operation setups. These are just some photos of different places. This is in the top one. There is the car, and then the one to the right shows you how I had it set up in the car. Actually set and had the seats fold down separate, so I had the big spot opened and folded down, and I set in the seat and operated off of this mag mount OPEC. I think it's a HV600 antenna. It's a jumpered coiled antenna. We're great. And then over here is my lower one. That is Washoe Lake, using the Wolf River coil. Can't really tell, but you can see the bean bag and the Faraday cloth under the table. And then I was also doing FT8, so I had both, not at the same time, but I used my G90 primarily for FT8. I just weird about running FT8 on my other radios because they do get hot, and the G90, I don't care. I'll buy another one if I burn it up. I always operate at 20 watts. But anyway, that's my FT710, so I did both SSB and FT8. I always bring FT8 as a backup. I tell you what, FT8 and CW will save you in a pinch when the band conditions are terrible. Both of those seem to work really well in terrible band conditions. I am not a CW operator, but I'm really excited about doing that because FT8 is not, to me, as much fun as actually making that human contact. But I do love FT8. It is fun. But I think CW, there's more of a thrill or an excitement for me. That's not true. I don't know. I just like the human interaction. I like that human element to it. But I do get excited when I make contacts for DX and FT8, so I ain't gonna lie. It's fun to do too. But you really should learn FT8 and operate FT8 if you're doing POTA, because it will save you when single side band is just not gonna work and you just can't make those contacts. worst thing is to have a failed activation. I have one. And by the way, if you fail an activation, please go ahead and log your file so that the hunters get their credit. Trust me, I debated about it myself because I did not want that. But again, it shouldn't be about the awards and about the stats and about this. It really should be about the contacts. And so log it. And I will continue to do so if I ever have another failed activation. I will log it and accept it because I don't want to screw somebody else out of contact, and the contacting is really what it's all about. Okay, so here's some other operations. That's Brown's Ravine on the top left over there. On the right is a forfer I did up in Utah, just out, well, quite a ways, 2 hours outside of Zion National Forest. I did both single sideband and FT8 there. This other one was a recent trip to Los Angeles, Chino Hills. And again, you can see where the Wolf River coil is awesome for small footprint areas. I just didn't have any way. The ground was so hard. I had no way or really any space to hook up my POTA Performer, and it did awesome. And the funny thing was the power lines actually did not create any kind of interference, which I was kind of worried about. Plus, it's an aluminum roof. But at any rate, it worked great. And then this other one down here in the far right, that is the group campground at Negro Bar. Negro Bar is part of Folsom Lake Recreation Area, and it counts as 3432. So let's see here. And then this was Old Sac. I had set up with a Lido and had that same HV 600 antenna on top, which is over here. So that's it. Let's get through these pretty quick. And then my next one, this is recent. This was this last weekend for Support Your Parks. Again, this is how I set up my POTA Performer. You can use linking. I don't like it. The things come undone all the time. I got frustrated, got tired of messing with it. So I cut quarter wave radials all the way around for all the bands I operate on. I string them all up and pull them all tight, and then I drop them all off here except for the band that I'm actually going to tune to. And then when I want to switch bands, I drop these, I put the other cables up or the raised radials up, and then I tune the antenna and operate. This was an attempt to do a cross to see if I would get better results, and it did not work. I ended up moving it back to the single. But anyway, this gives you an idea of the Wolf River coil and how it sets up and what its real estate is. And it's just the Faraday cloth plus your coax coming off the side. All right, so recon and planning. This is kind of my thing. I use the POTA app map, and I go in and pick the parks. Now, local, you probably don't have to get all crazy with it, but I went through to show you some of the tools I use. Like, for instance, when I went to South Carolina and Georgia and Utah and even Nevada. I'm not familiar with any of that stuff, so I kind of wanted to have an idea what I'm getting into and where I would activate before I got there. I wanted to have an itinerary and a plan, an idea based off those questions we just asked, operational considerations. I used all of these tools to kind of help plan out how I think this might go, so that when I get there, I'm not like, I have no idea, I'm just going to drive around. I kind of had an idea from going through this process of where I would set up and activate and kind of how the environment was going to be. So I go in and identify the parks I want to activate, and then I view the park information, and then I visit the park's official websites. Then I go to Google Maps and Google Earth, and I zoom on each of the parks that I'll be activating. I check for picnic areas, shade, open spaces for antennas. I locate nearby restrooms, food, gas stations, and then I read review for hidden gems, such as hazards would be like, oh, really ruddy, terrible BLM road, they didn't grade it, or well graded, great spot, or hey, I found this picnic table up with this beautiful view, and it's, a 2-minute hike from whatever spot. That information's good, as well as I would never go back, or bathrooms are gross, or scary place because of the people that were there, tons of homeless people, whatever. You get that information from the private posts that people put up. Anyway, this is inside of the Parks on the Air map. This is going to be Folsom Lake. You click on it. It shows you what the name of the park is and what the park number is, and then you click more info, and then that takes you in here. Now, the information I gather from inside of here is if I'm trying to get early shift to late shift, it tells me in UTC times what that's going to be. If you read the document and you're going to try to figure this out on your own, it is confusing. I'm sure some of you engineer and math geniuses would figure it out in a heartbeat, but for me, this is a quick reference, and I can figure out what the heck I need to be. I understand universal time, and I have it on my watch, so it's pretty simple for me to figure out when I would need to activate for that local time to match the times that they list here. And then right here's that link I was telling you about. you would click on the link that takes you straight to the actual park's website. And then inside of that park website, you get all kinds of information. I can tell you South Carolina, Georgia, Utah, Texas, obviously California, and Nevada are all set up very similar to this. And they have just a great, the state parks anyway, they have a great amount of information. Well, even the BLM land in Nevada was pretty impressive, and Utah for that matter. But they all kind of give you this kind of information. First thing is hazards. I mean, you don't care about golden mussel prevention, but like I activated a couple last week in LA. And because of the fires, several of the parks that I wanted to activate were closed. And then, of course, the government shut down a lot of the parks I was going to activate in LA said that they were closed, that the gates would not be open. So anyway, you come in here, and the cool thing is that this list over here of activities and facilities, most of them, the layout's a little different for each state, but they all have this kind of listing. And so primarily what I'm looking for is day use, if I'm just going there for the day. But I'm encouraged. If I see family, group campsites, RV hookups, I'm going, okay, this is a serious park. They got restrooms, showers. So I know facility-wise, as far as bathrooms and stuff go, I'm going to be pretty good. Because of all of this, I'm pretty sure they're going to have picnic areas. But you can always go to the day use and look for this. Picnic areas, that's awesome. Beach areas, even better. Anyway, I go in and I find this kind of information, and it kind of helps me get an idea of, is this just in the middle of nowhere? And you get, like a lot of times, you go up a dirt road, you get dropped off right where the trailhead is. You can activate there, but there's no facilities, there's nothing. So you better make sure you got food, you use the bathroom, you got water. This gives you an idea of what you're getting into at the park. Some of them aren't even accessible. There's one here in California that's like they're telling you it's impossible to get to, and it takes a long time, and it's a big hike, and it's really rough, and it's like a level 5. You kind of don't want to drive up there expecting to see Beals Point, and you get up there and it's like terrible. It's you can't even get all the way up there maybe because of the car you're in. Anyway, so in this example here, this is Beals Point. So what I did for all of my other plans, I go to Google Earth, and then I go zoom in. I can see, so I know from the way this is laid out that this is the drive to get into the park, and this drive dumps out here into this big large parking lot. I can see some structures here. I see lots of paved path, bike path, walk path, and I'm like, okay, this gonna be a great place to operate. I'm not sure what these are, so I go ahead and zoom in if there's a street view, and then now I can tell coming off the corner of this building right here is this covered park or picnic tables, and there's 2 of them. So, and I can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 at least. I see some other stuff here. These could be, maybe not, but you can go on that street view and you can look at a lot of this stuff at some of these bigger parks, even the smaller parks, and you can kind of tell what's there, what kind of picnic tables, where could I set up, and that's what I'm doing. I'm kind of looking for some spots where I think I could set up. I typically look for something in a far corner or something on a far edge so that I'm not out in the middle of the park where kids might be playing soccer or whatever. That's just kind of how I operate. All right, so once I go, say, out of state, this is Utah, Zion National Park. I go ahead and look up all the parks that I think I want to activate. I do all that recon, and then once I'm done with the recon, I go ahead and create a map and use Photoshop just to write this stuff in I put together this whole itinerary. But I go in and circle the parks I want, what the park numbers are. These are separate. These were actually a 4-fur, so that worked out pretty cool. I wanted to hit as many as I could in a day. I went into Google Maps, and I went ahead and determined from my hotel how long would it take me to get each location, and then I would actually split this out and go, okay, from for instance in this next screen, okay, drive time from, say, my house, this is a coastal trip, drive time to the very first park is almost 3 hours. Day 1, I decided I want to do 4 parks, and one of them's a 2-fer. And the way I determined that was by going in and making those maps from each park, from QTH first park to the, activate to the next park, activate to the next park, and then I came up with the itinerary for what I was going to do. So in this instance, day 1, I'm going to do 4 parks, really 3 locations, because one of them's a 2-fer. And then I kind of, based on all the recon that I've done, I go ahead and say, okay, I think I'm going to activate from the car, or I may have to get my camping table out and go down on the beach. And then, where can I set up to get the 2-fer? and I can see that I got to be within 100 foot or whatever according to their deal. So the park is a twofer. I must position at the park boundaries. So in this instance, my twofer is not really a twofer. I'm going to find that park boundary. I'm going to set my table up on one side. I'm going to activate, and then I'm going to move my table literally over to the other park, which is all sand and beach. And there was a distinct line that you could see. It wasn't a fence, but it was like, I can't remember if it was a bathroom or there was something there, but at any rate, I could tell where the park boundaries were. So you would set up on one side, then go to the other side. But this isn't a real twofer, but I got a twofer here because I could do 10 on one side or 12 on one side, 12 on the other, and I don't have to drive or really move anywhere. I just kind of have to step across the line. Anyway, this is kind of how I set it up, and I go into these details. That way, when I can activate, like all of those questions, operational questions, I can answer, and then I can come in here and plan. When I did Zion, I actually planned my breakfast, my lunch, even if there wasn't a bathroom, like, okay, I'm pretty sure I'm going to need to use a restroom after this. Where's a service station, or where's the closest restaurant that I can get to? And I can tell you in Zion, there just aren't a whole lot of choices, so you really have to kind of plan for that. Again, travel considerations, flying, what do I take? I could take a compact radio, an external tuner. You don't really need that. But for me, I had it, so I took it. Faraday cloth, cornhole bags. I take two 10 amp hour batteries. I want them rated at 10 to 15 amps for my FT891 or any of my other radios for that matter. I take an explosive proof battery fire bag. That's just me. The likelihood of one of your batteries blowing up or catching on fire or short circuiting or overheating is really pretty slim. But just as a precaution, I carry my batteries when I fly in a fireproof, explosive proof bag designed specifically for lithium batteries. And then I take my laptop for digital operations, a notepad, pencil, water, snacks, and everything I take actually fits in the military backpack. I travel with my carry-on and my backpack, and my backpack gear fits under the airline seat. And when I travel local, what do I take? I just pick. I almost always take my G90 because, like I said, I'm always prepared for FT8. G90 is a given, and then I pick which radio I want to use. I really love the FT710. I absolutely love traveling around and operating on the 891, but the FT10 has much better receive filtering and can clean up signals in really bad conditions much better than any of the other radios. But I like operating on all of them. So obviously I have my laptop for FT8 operations. I take my Radio Sport or some type of professional earbuds. These would be the earbuds like monitoring for singers or audiophile guys. Something that fits in your ears that has a really good quality and mostly no lows, kind of like a mid-range thing. There's a German company that makes some good ones, and I bought a set of those, and I like them. They don't work as good as a Radio Sport, but they do work well enough that when I don't want to carry around a hard case with my Radio Sport headphones, I can throw them in, and they work great. I always take, don't always, but I typically will take my POTA Performer. I always take my Wolf River coil. I can set that sucker up anywhere, even on asphalt in the middle of a parking lot, and it works great. I've set it up on the hood of my Explorer one time, and it worked awesome. So Wolf River coil is my go-to antenna. Now I say that, I mean I can use it anywhere, and the POTA Performer I cannot. Sometimes you cannot stab your stakes in the ground, and it's just, and it kind of takes up a little bit. If there's people running around, it's a little tougher antenna to set up. Maybe not on the 20 and under, maybe not so much, but on 20 meters and above, your raised ground radials are getting pretty long. I usually always take a mag mount with shark stick antennas because it's quick and easy to deploy, and if I need to operate from the car, I want to have that option. Weather, wind, something comes up, rain, whatever. I just want to be. I don't want to be at a place and drive all the way out there and go, oh crap, I should have brought it. I typically always take a 50 amp hour echo-worthy backup battery, just in case something happens with the primary batteries, and it's pre-wired for all my radios where I could just unplug inside of the box and plug straight into it very simply without taking anything apart. I take a portable camping table. It's always in my car with a camping chair. I take a sports umbrella everywhere. I'll take an easy up if we're doing multiple operations. Otherwise, I use a sports umbrella, which I call my man cave. Crawl up inside that baby with my table and my chair and my radio, and I'm good to go. I have sandbags. I take two sandbags. They're easy up style sandbags. Sometimes I'll take three. I do have 30-pound sandbags I'll take if it's really windy. But typically I find that I think these are like 10 or 12 pounds said and done, is enough to hold the antenna in place in pretty good winds, and the as well as the the sports umbrella. I don't screw it into the ground. I just lay it at an angle and then I tie it off to the sandbag, and I typically will tie that to the chair or the table if it's really windy, and it works great. The antenna, POTA Performer, and both the Wolf River coil, you want to have a sandbag under or on the tripod or under the tripod or for the Wolf River coil. In windy conditions, anything over 8 miles an hour, these sandbags do a great job of keeping it on the ground and not moving. I'll take a radio gear bag that'll have like extra coax, rope, bandpass filters if there's multiple operators, tools, things like that, crimpers, just so I'm not out an hour from the house and go, ah, crap, my coax came off, or I've had the molar clips come off the end of my raised radials and needed to be able to put it back on. Anyway, and then I take a small ice chest, drinks, food and water, snacks. All right, so antenna performance. So this last weekend, the Support Your Parks. This was the first day for me, which was Saturday. We set up for 20 meters. I set up both the Wolf River coil. Was this Saturday? I did this later. But anyway, I set up the Wolf River coil and I set up the POTA Performer, and I compared the two as far as how well they tune. And you can see there's not much of a difference. I will tell you this though, I tried to contact France on the 1.12 and the phase of 179. And when I switched over, I mean, you can see the big dB change. That's really where it's at, return loss. When I switched over to the 1.01 on the SWR for the POTA Performer, I made the contact. I worked at it, and it was only like a 4.3, but I could do it, and he couldn't hear me at all on the Wolf River coil. So when you hear a guy say resonance matters, it really does. It does, but it's not going to make or break an activation. But it could make or break a good contact or a DX contact for sure. Again, field operations, DX is a bonus, and it's exciting to get. But when you're doing parks in the air activations, you're not going to be able to get the performance out of these antennas that you're going to get out of an antenna that you could set up at a house and put 50 feet in the air. So again, all my recommendations and all the stuff I talk about, and all when I talk about resonance and Q and all that, is based on quick in and outs, quick deployments, quick in and outs, field operations. We're not talking about DX here. You would not want to set these antennas up for a DX contest. They just ain't going to work that great for you. All right, so band conditions when we were out, we were at a 4, a 3.5, 4, but in spite of that, we actually did quite well. So we actually made a lot of contacts on one DX down here. It was the next day I got France. But this day was rough. Saturday was, it was good at first. Bands were really doing well, and then, man, it just crashed out. And I think we hit like a 5 or a 6 kp index by the end, and it wasn't going to work. Okay, so this is how I set up my antenna. As I was saying, I stretch all of the, this is the POTA Performer. I stretch all of these out to where they're supposed to be, and I was operating on 10, 12, 15, and 20. And then I drop them. So here I'm only operating on 20 meters to start, and I dropped all of these other ones down, but they're right there. They're ready to go. When I want to switch, I just hook them back up to the antenna, and I drop these cables off, and then I retune. All right. So on Saturday or Sunday, this is what I set up for. I set up for 10 meters to start, and then went to 20, and I'll show you why as we get through this. This is the POTA Performer, and this is how it tunes. It's just, man, it's just awesome. And then when I set up for 20 meters, this is how it tunes. Again, it's just awesome. It is a very resonant antenna. And then here's the band conditions for Saturday. Man, Saturday was so much fun. 145 contacts in 2 hours, something like that. But this was the band conditions. Compared to the day before, which was really ugly, and all these were poor by the time we left the park, this day was just amazing. It just worked really well. And then here's the contacts we made. It was all over. It was amazing. And again, I'm not saying DX isn't possible, especially when band conditions are good. I mean, my gosh, you could DX on a. I swear, March of last year, I could have seriously DX'd by tuning a metal lawn chair. It was just amazing. Nowadays, you really kind of have to work at it, although the bands are improving. And then again, here's where I take my screenshots of what direction I put this. So what I do is I put the center of the antenna with that bracket part that I attach the radios to at the direction that I want to go, and I V out from there. So whatever my angle or angle of opening is going to be, whether it's 180, 30, whatever, I take notes on that. But that's where I want to aim, because the POTA Performer is directional gain. You get gain in between the V of your race radios. And then here's just kind of an example within an hour of changing bands and switching around and modes of what our contacts were. All of these orange ones were actually single sideband, not FT8. These were actual single sideband contacts, and it was on 10 meters. But you'll notice from right here, the Midwest over, there ain't nobody on this side of the fence, and I got everybody over here. And then I actually got some of these DX contacts later were actually on FT8 10 meter, but my 20 meter single sideband was literally right here, which almost never happens. It was so invis. That antenna is not set up for invis, but all the contacts, and again, that just goes to show you, with all the science and all the knowledge we have, we really don't know what happens depending on, we can't predict what really happens when that we can model it, but we can't predict what happens when it hits the atmosphere. In this particular case, it was really actually a lot of fun to make a lot of local contacts that you typically can't make because the antenna is not set up for invis. So anyway, that's kind of how it goes. All right, so that's it. I want to thank you for allowing me to come and do the presentation. If you guys have any questions or you have anything that you want me to cover, go ahead and let me know, and we'll get into it. I know this thing was about an hour long, so again, I appreciate your time. Just go ahead and show you a couple deals. This is a close-up of my FT891 box. This is a copy or close-up of the 991A, and of course there's different revisions of this, but this is the typical what it looks like. This is my favorite box. That's a 30 amp hour. I got everything set up in here, and it's really nice setup on the back. But this is my FT710. It's my favorite go-to rig. And my G90, boy, I use this thing all the time. Especially if I'm traveling around in the car or want to go do quick 20 watt SSB or FT8, but I use it for FT8 all the time. But I like this because I can pull everything out quickly, throw it in the bag, throw it in a backpack, and then I can put it all right back. It's all Velcroed down. Nothing is bolted in except for the case. And even then, I don't need the power cord even. I just pull the radio out with all of the stuff, and I have a second power cord that I own. So it's just a quick, easy in and out deployment. So that I can use it mobile. Anyway, that's it. Hey, I appreciate it. Hopefully you made it all the way through. Hopefully you got something out of it. If you have any questions, just post and ask. That's it for me. Again, Jimmy Landrum, November 6th, Fox Mike Delta. Hopefully this was helpful to y'all.